we both kind of got wind of this a few days before it came out. But it came to fruition Friday in the Tennessee market at 10 a.m. and the Nebraska market at 11 a.m. So that in its own sense, just the back and forth with the ADs and the news of this, it was pretty tense. And you could feel that from Danny White, obviously, with the nature of the cancellation of this series so close to 26 right now.
Yeah, just disappointing because you got to go try to find a game. And Tennessee wanted to play, and Tennessee's fans wanted to play. I mean, this is a series that I guess the original contract was signed in like 16 or 17, somewhere in that ballpark. I mean,
2006 is when it actually got signed.
6. So there you go. It's been bumped multiple times. And it's just one of those deals where, Tennessee wanted to play the game. I don't know where Nebraska. I know they've got the stadium renovation coming down on that. And I know some people have suggested maybe they're trying to do a little bit of what Indiana did and go a little softer in their non-conference. I don't know. I don't know what led to Matt Rule and the AD making that decision. I just know on our side of things, talking to the Tennessee people here in Knoxville, just a lot of disappointment. You're not getting to play what I think would be a fun home and home between two pretty passionate fan bases that have that have kind of walked through the wilderness for a while, trying to get back to where they were and where they want to be. And it just hasn't worked out. Now the scramble for Tennessee is you're trying to find games, and right now that's a real hard thing to do because you've got dates that you really just want to plug and play, but finding those are going to be really, really challenging.
Is there a level of understanding on the part of Tennessee fans for Nebraska's reasoning? I mean, or do they care? Do they even take time to look at it?
Nah, I mean, it's a fan base, right? I mean, you got into the message board post. They're afraid to play, and all this other stuff. And then you saw the comments from Nebraska about, the stadium renovations and everything that's going on there that made some sense. And again, a lot of people trying to imply that it's kind of an Indiana path, if you will, depending on what your Big Ten schedule is going to look like. Mm-hmm. I think what's going to be really fascinating, Steve, is just what does scheduling look like in general in the Big Ten and in the ACC as we move into 26 and 27 with the expanded playoffs. There's this talk about playing maybe a Big Ten SEC challenge. It looks like a lot of money on the surface, but are you really going to, are all the football coaches going to go to their AD and go, yeah, that's great, let's go do that? Or are they going to go, you know what, let's try to avoid that if we can avoid that thing? I mean, right. The SEC's been kicking, a 9-game conference schedule down the road for 3 or 4 years now. So, we'll see. But no, I don't know that there's a lot of understanding, just more disappointment, which is typical of a fan base.
Sure. Brent, we had Nebraska's AD, Troy Dannon, on with us on Friday. And one of the things he said is they offered to move this series possibly later down the road, kind of like what Nebraska had to do for Tennessee to accommodate the Bristol Motor Speedway game in 2016 and 2017. And then Nebraska got Oregon back then to replace Tennessee for those 2 years. Was it a non-starter to kick this down the road further because of the unknowns, you think, with schedules in the 2030s and beyond? Yeah,
I think so. I mean, Tennessee is setting in 29 and 30 with a home and home with Washington as of now. And that's as far out as they are. And I think, I don't want to say it's on hold, but I think everybody's trying to figure out, okay, instead of scheduling 8-9 years down the road, let's wait and find out. Is the group of 4 game that the SEC requires you to get to play, is that going to become a Big Ten game and kind of this play off the basketball ACC SEC challenge or Big 12 SEC challenge that we've seen? Or are they going to not do that? I think the SEC's got to go to 9. Okay. There's just going to be too much money involved. At some point, TV is going to go, you know what? We're not interested in LSU McNeese State. What I am interested in I'm interested in LSU in Georgia or LSU in South Carolina or somebody like that. So we'll pay more money for another SEC matchup as opposed to having to put some of these payday games on the SEC network and ABC and ESPN. So I do think we're going to end up going there in the SEC.
I almost hate to do this, Brent, but what are we going to miss? What kind of trajectory is Tennessee on? How do you project them to look in 2026? I just want to kind of get in my mind finally what I'm going to be missing.
Well, I think I think what's interesting is Tennessee's probably going to be breaking in a new quarterback. You're probably going to have a quarterback that's never started a game before, unless he starts a bowl game. But if you make the playoffs, then your starter is not going to opt out at that point. So, I mean, I think if Nico Iamaleava has his way and he has a good year, I think his plan is to go pro. So now you're looking at a backup in Jake Merklinger, if he's still here, who's never played, or George McIntyre, who would be a redshirt freshman, or a true freshman, and Faison Brandon if he stays with his commitment and signs with Tennessee. So it would be quite the change for Tennessee that way. They would be losing some guys on the defensive front. You feel like they're going to be, load back up pretty good. But the biggest thing is quarterback. You're going to be breaking in a new quarterback, and I don't think that's a bad thing if you're an opposing team.
Brent, when you talk about adding that 9th game, if the college football playoff in 26 goes to the auto bids, how much easier is that going to make it for the SEC to get the 9th game, because they know no matter what the records are, they're going to get 4 teams in the playoff, even if teams are 8-4 at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great way to sell it to a coach, right? Hey, we're going to go to this game, but the result is going to be 4 automatic bids. So we're not going to be sitting there like Alabama was, at the end of November this year, wondering or what's going on. I mean, South Carolina would have been in. So I think that's the selling point you have to make to the coaches. I think the other thing too, and I know this is a bit frustrating for fans. I mean, unfortunately, everything's about money, and how do you make more money? And if you're in the SEC, an extra conference game has a chance to yield each school probably another $5 million a piece. I mean, how do you turn that down? You're trying to find $20 million in rev share, assuming that's rolling through here. Do we think that number is going to stay the same, or is that going to be like the NFL salary cap, and it's going to go to 25 and it's going to go to 28 and bump forward in the coming years? So you better find every way you can to make as much money as you can, and you better be giving your fans a product that they're willing to pay $150 a ticket, including a talent fee on your ticket cost. And I mean, you know what I mean? You got to look at those things and factor those things in, because this money machine is just raging out of control right now.
How is your NIL program there at Tennessee for football?
It's been good. I mean, Tennessee's been super aggressive. The collective here was well organized. The collective here, which is a company called Spire, is run by some guys who are marketing people. Who handle PGA golfers, who've handled contracts with endorsement deals. So it wasn't a little bit of a kind of a fly by night, figure it out, learn as you go type deal. They knew what a contract was supposed to look like. They weren't sliding, scratched up sheets of paper and Post-it notes across the table to somebody. I mean, they were early on in those things. Now, I think one of the interesting things is there's a reputation that Tennessee's got a ton of money. They're just out there more than everybody else right now. And I don't think that's the case. It's just they've been organized. They were super aggressive in going after Nico. That was the first big one. There was a ton of publicity in that deal because of how big it was. And I think at times it's kind of, I don't want to say bit Tennessee, but kind of bit them a little bit, because I think some kids want to come visit and they're just driving the market up. They're just driving the price up because the belief they have is that Tennessee's got more money than they know what to do with.
Well, and David Sanders too, right? That was another big one for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, you got David Sanders, and you're sitting there with Tennessee and Ohio State, and then obviously Matt Rule and Nebraska, tried to put as many eggs in that basket as they could get into that basket as well. And I've said it on multiple occasions on our message board and on our podcast. I mean, the world we're living in now, David Sanders has to start from day one. He's a first-round draft pick. You have to view it as he's a first-round draft pick.
Wow.
You cannot sit there and let him set, paying him money, paying him big money. He can't set for a year and know when he's a free agent in December, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're gonna. Wow. This is the interesting thing, I think, Steve and Sean, when you look at NIL and you look at how this thing goes. Mm-hmm. You got two options. One, you can focus your money in the transfer portal and get experienced guys and getting bidding wars there, or you go recruit at the elite level, which means you're going to spend money in recruiting. Well, if you're spending a lot of money in NIL and recruiting, you got to play them. You can't You can't wait. I mean, that's just not the world we're living in now. So, I mean, I think David Sanders should be the Tennessee's right tackle from day one. Will he have growing pains? Sure he will. But, I mean, how are you going to have that guy standing over there holding a clipboard, you know, with the university and rev share and with the collective knowing, you know, how much money's been invested there? It's hard to justify that guy standing on the sidelines.
I'll give you another example, too. Look at Williams Nwaneri. He goes to Missouri, and they tried to create this kind of cute 4-game redshirt plan for him. Guess where he's at? Nebraska right now.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, if we ever get into what Jay Billis was talking about last week and multi-year contracts where you got a buyout if you want to leave, then you got some wiggle room. Okay, you got some wiggle room. But, I mean, why not? I mean, you're going to take big money that first year to stand and watch? Well, you get frustrated, you know, and then what if you leave? Then if you're the collective, you're sitting there going, what do we spend the money on? For him to come and have a redshirt year in the minor leagues before he goes to the major leagues, basically. So I just think in this day and age, if you're going to go that route in recruiting, you've got to play young players. And,
wow, that is really provocative. Thank you. Okay, just one minor thing. Pronounce that quarterback's name again.
Nico Iamaleava.
Wow, Sean, I wasn't even.
I'm almost glad Nebraska's not playing Tennessee, so we didn't have to learn this.
I thought it was Amaliva, which apparently what is going to do for the NFL. Amaliva.
We met his cousin at the Polynesian Bowl. That trainer,
That's right.
remember?
Yeah.